my loves, welcome back. I am building this trailer out in Strangerville. I was inspired because I saw this trailer hitch in the debug and I really wanted to use it. I thought it would go well with the area and the surroundings, and I didn't just want to build a tiny house. And I have seen trailers where people use random objects or they use CC to make it look like a trailer, and I really wanted to use objects that were already in the game so that when you uploaded it you could use it already. I think it ends up being a little higher than this when I'm finished with it, and that was because when I ended the build and I went into playtest, you couldn't get to the bed area, and I think that the back part of the hitch where the wheels were in the way, but I think it looks okay because once it's up a little bit you can see the wheels a little bit better. Yeah, I really enjoy building this. I think it's different to the other trailers that have been built, and I wanted to do something that was like that but keeping the aesthetic of Strangerville and keeping the vibe. And again, for this build I did make up a very, very, and I mean very elaborate backstory for the guy that lives here. I mean, so elaborate that I created his family and everything. It was too much. I'm not sure if I still have the family in my files because Origin for Mac has been acting up and I had to delete a lot of stuff, and I think it's somewhere in all of that his family got deleted. But anyways, I wanted it to include the bathroom inside, but I wanted it to remain very trailer-like, so that's why I didn't go for a small bathroom. I went instead with this area that you're seeing right here with the shower and the toilet across from each other, and then the bedroom all the way in the back. That's the kind of idea I had in mind when I was putting this house together, is that I wanted it to look very much like a trailer home that you would see, in movies and things like that, with the bedroom all the way in the back. Initially, right now, you'll see me putting the kitchen in the back, but I ended up changing it around, and you'll see that as the video progresses. I had a really fun time creating the backstory for the guy that lives here. So in my mind, he was a med student whose med school was paid for by the army, and so after school ended he went into service for the army. He did lots of research for them, and he was the one that started noticing the differences in people and people acting weird after interacting with this crash land site, and he was running a lot of experiments and trying to get information out to the public. And the army was definitely stifling him and telling him, he couldn't be doing these things and to not say anything to anybody. And at this time, he had done really, really well in the army. He had all the commendations and he was very well respected, and he was married and had a kid, and his family was his world. He loves the little girl that he has, and he wanted them to be safe. And his wife ends up really just disagreeing with how he handles everything, and she doesn't believe him, obviously, because he sounds a little crazy talking about how, alien life forms are coming to do like Invasion of the Body Snatchers. This is where I decide to move the kitchen back here, and again, this is something that I feel like is pretty similar to what an old-timey trailer home would look like. In my mind, they lived way up on the hill, up where all the really nice houses in Strangerville are. He did very well in the military, and so he was able to have this very nice house, and his family lived there in one of the big Victorian style mansions that are up there. And when she divorced him after all of this, he ends up moving into basically a trailer because this is all he has, and he loses his job with the military because he's trying to disseminate all of this very secret information, and it's illegal, and so they discharge him from the military, and he just has such a rough time of it, poor guy. And After his wife divorces him and he moves in here, his trailer didn't look like this initially. I imagined him having a very rundown trailer, and in my mind, he continued to try and do experiments on his own. And then when all the military bases and the secret lab was abandoned, I imagine he went in there and he kind of looted and pillaged a little bit and set up a secret lab. And I do have this secret door back here that I built, and right now I'm building his entrance to a secret lab. And he's very brilliant, so he was able to do all of this and to continue doing his research because he's very smart and he knows what's going on. And even though everyone in his life thinks he's crazy, he knows that he's not. And so I have this secret door in the back of his trailer, and then I have that bookshelf that's inside that's not actually a bookshelf, it's a secret door. I wanted him to have that sort of hermit lifestyle, at least for the first couple of years while his child wasn't with him. When they divorced, the girl was very small, she was young, and her mom had sole custody, and he couldn't really interact with her at all. And then once his little girl kind of grew up, when she was around 15 or 16, she started coming over to see him, and she saw what kind of state her dad was in, and because she loved him so much, she really wanted to make his life a little better. And she's very artistic and she's always been into that. And when her mom remarried, she remarried this guy that was very straight-laced, and they ended up having a kid. But she doesn't get along well with her stepfather because he's the complete opposite of her dad, right? He doesn't encourage her creativity. He didn't encourage her exploring herself and exploring anything about herself or exploring her artistic side. And her dad does that for her. And so when she was 15 or 16, she started coming over and she planted trees with her dad, and she painted this picnic bench with him. And the reason that the trailer looks nice like it does now and has all of this going on is that she very much wants her dad to have some sort of life outside of just living like a hermit. She doesn't know about his secret lab, and she doesn't know about the weird things he does to maintain his secret lab, but she saw the way that he was living, and she wanted to take care of him, and this is how she does it. She's very cute. When I made her, I remember her being very cute. I think in some of the scenes that I have either at the beginning or at the end, I can't remember where I've put them when I'm editing, but you can see she's super adorable and she's very young and hip, and I really like her. I think she's so cute. She started coming over, and that's why the inside of the trailer is not such a crazy mess like what I imagined it would be if he was still living on his own with no company and no one to encourage him to not be alone. So she's had him make friends with the other people that live in the community. She's had him become friends with the neighbors that live across the street in one of the houses. And the neighbors, I also made the neighbors. Such a complicated backstory. Anyways, I made the neighbors, and it's a mom and her teenage daughter now. The daughter's a teenager, and she goes to school with the teenage daughter. His daughter does. And they like each other, and she's starting to explore herself and her sexuality now as she's becoming a little older. So her and the neighbor's daughter in this secret relationship, and she can't tell her mom and she can't tell her stepdad, but her dad knows in his heart what's going on, and he loves her and he supports her anyways. And that's why their relationship works so well, and why she comes to visit him all the time. And his ex-wife does worry about him, and when her new husband isn't around, she comes over and she cooks food for him, and she takes care of him as much as she can, because at the end of the day, she loves him, and she knows that something is going on. She sees it happening, but she can't go back. She's definitely come around more often now to support him and just be there for him, because he is all alone and there's really no one else that he's going to find until he solves the mystery of Strangerville. And so I wanted his trailer to be like the place for that, where you could have someone come and live and do everything without having to always like pop back and forth to the secret lab. I don't think I put all of the equipment, but you could definitely put it downstairs in the secret lab that I built, and I really enjoyed making it. I think it's a lot of fun to have that kind of covert secret basement. I mean, it's very, very cluttered, so this isn't by any stretch of the imagination a cheap build, but in my mind you could cheat to own the place and then bring all of your money down to not have any, because I don't think that it's expensive in terms of what the build is. I just really wanted to have a lot of clutter. I think my favorite part of this build is probably the kitchen area. I like the fact that it has the bench. When I play tested it, I don't think I could get them to sit down on the bench, and I'm not sure whether it's because there's not enough room for them to get there from not having enough tiles. I'm not sure, but it didn't bother me because you could sit in the blue pull-out chairs, and he doesn't have a lot of people come over anyways. But if it does bother you, then you could definitely put chairs there instead of the booth seating. I just thought that that was something that was very typical of a trailer. Honestly, I think I was basing my information of a trailer off of having just watched Toy Story 4. I built this a while back. I think I built this when the column glitch was still happening. I know when you saw me put the columns down like by where the bathrooms are, they kept popping up, and I think I built this way back then in middle of September. I think is when I built this. I just hadn't had time to edit it and to do a voiceover and everything. Actually, I think I edited a while ago. I just didn't have time to do the voiceover. But yeah, I built this back then, and I think I also had watched Toy Story 4 around that time, and I think that is what was in my head when I was building this. I wanted it to be very much like that, like he had just bought this home off of somebody, and that scene where, they're in the trailer home and there's the booth and the benches and stuff like that. I wanted to recreate that. The booths, though, in Sims 4 are really very large, and you can't have them be the way that you would in a typical trailer home, not if you're going to make it this short in width. I think you'd have to have it be a lot longer, and I didn't want to do that. I wanted it to be very short in width, like you would imagine what it would be like. So I kept it the size that it was and just put the 2 chairs there. I wanted it to be as realistic as possible, keeping in mind the scaling issues and everything that we have with The Sims, because you can't always keep everything the scale you would normally have it. I also like this part that I'm doing right now in the kitchen. I wanted to have lots of storage, and so I liked having the shelves everywhere. That's why I put the wood workshop. I imagine that he's very good with his hands, so he carved all these shelves with his daughter, and she helped him basically organize his trailer and organize all of his stuff so that he would be able to find everything and not look like a cluttered homeless man. So I enjoyed doing that. I enjoyed having all of this clutter everywhere, but it looked like organized chaos, right? There's the chaos of everything that he has, but it's organized and neat and where it's supposed to be, and it's not by his own doing. It definitely has that look of, a teenage girl came in, and his daughter came in and did all these very eclectic things to make it look like a finished and complete home. And I feel like you can see that in this build. You can see the kind of way how everything is super eclectic and it doesn't all completely make sense, and it's because he's not really trying to make it make sense, and his daughter is the one that's doing it. So she's not doing it the way that it should be done, but it's cute, and I think it makes sense, and it kind of looks like they got everything from like Target or IKEA and put everything together. I think I put the shelf above the fridge like that because at the time I don't think I realized that you could put things on top of the fridge and still get in them. I thought I needed some space, but it turns out that you don't. Not always. It depends on the shelving and everything like that. But I like these shelves that I found off of Debug. I think they look rustic and I wanted to keep them. I wanted it to look kind of like him and his daughter had created these shelves together, and they had wanted to make it a project together. I think she gets a lot of her creativity from him, and because he wants to encourage it, he does these projects with her. They were a little bit of a pain to place, I'm not going to lie, and the shadow and the light in some of these objects is not that great. I'm not sure who I got this idea from about the gas can. I remember watching, I think it was maybe SimLissy. I think when she did her trailer home in Strangerville, she had the gas cans out front, and I'm 99% sure that's who it was, and I know that that's where I got the idea from, and so I wanted to add them too because I thought it made sense for this trailer home. It's why I have like the air purifier back there and the electricity box, because I wanted it to make it seem like a proper trailer home. And now we're gonna move into the favorite part of what I did here, which was making the underground bunker. I wanted it to be hidden away. He doesn't tell anyone about this, not even his daughter. He's very secretive about it. And in my imagination, he started building this himself. It started with like this very small area, and the more I kept adding to it, the bigger I kept making this underground bunker. And I wanted it to have that sort of feeling that it started off small like this and just, you know, a desk and his work supplies. And as he became more and more convinced of this alien life form theory, and as he became more and more convinced that these plants were taking over and were hurting the citizens and causing all of these issues, he wanted to keep expanding, and he does. And so you'll see as I keep making this, initially I think it's just going to be this one area, and as I keep finding objects I want to place in here and finding out how big they are, the whole room gets enormous. And right now I think the wall level height is small, and I do go back at the very end and make the wall height medium so that all the equipment that's in there fits. But I wanted it to make it like he initially started off with all of this equipment that he created himself. So he's intelligent, he's an army doctor, but he has some of these things that he cobbled together himself, some of these things that he picked up at junkyards and made function, power and purify the air down here. And as he starts becoming more and more convinced of this theory, the bunker just continues to expand and get larger, and then he has this area where he goes to put up his theory. So I really like this room as well because it's like that second level of crazy that happened after his wife left him, and he has all these posters everywhere, and he has this corkboard where he puts up all of his ideas and evidence from his exploration. And we don't have a lot of that in the actual game itself, so I just used posters we had, but in my mind they were posters of things that he had found that convinced him or would point to certain facts within the world and supported his theory of the fact that these plants were trying to take over. And even though he was discharged from the army dishonorably, I think that he's still very much a soldier at heart, so he has all of his army things down here as well. So like I said, this is his second level of crazy. This is when no one was around and he had built this entire bunker and just started accumulating masses of evidence, whether it fit into his theory or not, whether it made sense or not. He just started collecting mounds and mounds of data to go through, and he didn't have anything else to do for a living, so this is what he did, and this is what he became obsessed with. And as he started learning more and more about what was going on, right now I'm just adding the wonderful swatches we got from Strangerville, which are the big floor stains and carpets that look like papers everywhere. Anyways, so as he starts becoming more invested in this idea that aliens basically are taking over, he also has this area that I wanted down here, which is his end of days bunker with all of his canned food. And then his third stage of crazy is what's going to happen now, which is after he gets discharged and after the secret lab shuts down and no one's allowed back in the facility, he goes in and he actually steals a lot of the equipment from the secret lab and brings it home with him. And this is where he goes all out. He steals all of these very giant pieces of equipment and TV screens, and he creates his own internal lab where he continues his experimentation down here. And like I said, he keeps all of his military things down here as well, and being a researcher in the army, he knows what he's doing, but he doesn't have anyone to check him and to check that he's not gone off the deep end. And that is what leads to his final act of madness, which I think you'll see in the very, very last portion of this speed build. And I want to put it in here now because I don't know if I'll have time at the end, which is he basically robs a bank. I put in the stolen ATM machine, and I wanted to have that in there because I think that shows just the absolute level of crazy that he reaches. He also, even though he has his trailer upstairs, and before his daughter kind of came into his life again, he was sleeping down here as well, and I really like that concept. And I don't have all of the equipment that the secret lab has. I don't think I have like the vaccine makers and stuff, but this is one of my favorite things that I made, which was it's like his clean room shower, because I mean, at his heart he is a scientist, and so I put the decontamination shower in there. I thought that was a pretty cool detail. And then a lot of the Strangerville items like this lab equipment and the things that came with it are one of the reasons why this is probably one of my favorite packs. And then I have this area where he sleeps, and I included the IV in the corner because again, he's a doctor. He spends all of his time down here. He doesn't eat very well, so another level of crazy is he gives himself these IVs of nutrients basically, and he has that in his coffee, and that's what keeps him going. And he's getting better now, but he was very young when he got married, and he's not that old now, but he looks quite old. I gave him a bunch of wrinkles and gray hair, and he looks a lot older than he is because he just isn't taking care of himself. I also love this tank that I put inside, and right now I'm just cluttering up the place, but in the tank I actually place a couple of the bizarre plants, and I think it looks so cool in there. And I know that it's from Get to Work, but it works really well also in Strangerville, so I really like that idea. So I think everything is pretty much done at this point. I'm just putting a lot of finishing touches, like putting cracks and these holes in the wall and adding some more posters everywhere just to give it that look that it's his secret lab. And he works hard on it, and he wants everything to look as official as possible. And here I am putting like his money that he's stolen and x-rays of himself that he's taken to kind of study what's going on. But yeah, this is pretty much all of it. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Be sure to check it out on my Origin page. All the links will be at the end. Make sure you like and comment and subscribe, and I will see you in the next one.